you need to exercise all these levels of intimacy.
Definitely.
You cannot choose one to do and leave the others.
You cannot reach emotional intimacy and emotional protection at the same time.
If you only regard sex as intimacy or as the entirety of physical intimacy,
then you might not be as intimate as you should as a couple. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Finding Beauty in Marriage, your podcast for all things marriage. And as always, I'm not alone. I'm with my beautiful wife, Matapelo Maluka. Say hi, baby.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope we have a great time together today.
Awesome. And I know we're definitely going to be having a great time. But before we proceed, as you would always know, we aim to build beautiful and fulfilling marriages, right?
Yeah.
But we can't do this alone. So we need you to like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment, whatever you do, as long as you keep our page and wherever you're listening to this information from, make sure you just comment on it so that it's bumped up so that other couples can find it. So with that being said, what are we talking about, babe?
So today we are talking about intimacy.
Yes.
We are talking about...
I love intimacy.
We are talking about what is intimacy, the different levels of intimacy, and how to forge intimacy with your spouse.
Yeah.
So intimacy, basically, it is the couple's closeness, togetherness, or familiarity.
Yeah.
You may ask, how do I forge intimacy with my spouse?
Yeah.
Well, it is important to know that this is not an automatic occurrence, right? Just because you are married, then it means you have your intimacy on lockdown. But it is an intentional, everyday exercise.
Yeah.
Marriage is work, guys. We work at it every day.
Every single day.
Even with being intimate, we work at it every day.
Yeah.
Right. So you become close with your partner, or you forge intimacy with your spouse through communication, compromise, and commitment. The three important C's in a relationship, which I think we will discuss in detail in our next episode.
Awesome.
Here's the thing. Many people think, when they think of intimacy, they automatically, without thinking too much, think of sex.
That's why I said I love intimacy.
So you're one of these people. And if this is your thinking, or if this is what you know about intimacy, or all that you know about intimacy, then we are here to help you today. So buckle up, and it is going to be an enjoyable ride.
Yeah. So from what you're saying, I gather that if sex is the only intimacy you know, then you might not be as intimate as you should as a couple.
Yeah.
So what is true intimacy? How? Tell me more. I wanna know what you have in store for us today.
So we have 4 levels of intimacy.
Okay.
But I want to start with the one that I've just mentioned, that is not the entirety of intimacy. So the first level of intimacy is actually spiritual intimacy that we are going to end with. So we are going to take it from the bottom up.
Okay.
So we are going to start breaking off the misconception of sex being the entirety of intimacy. So it is not the first level, like I have already mentioned, but we will start with it so that going forward you have a better and informed understanding of what intimacy really is.
Yeah.
So sex is not even a level of intimacy in itself.
Yeah.
But it is a part of a level of intimacy.
Yeah.
And this part, or this level of intimacy, is actually physical intimacy. So sex is a part of physical intimacy.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So if you only regard sex as intimacy, or as the entirety of physical intimacy, what you are saying is that you are only familiar or close with your spouse on one level or a part of intimacy in your marriage. If this is the case, then you are not entirely close, as you have mentioned already, or as close as you should be.
Yeah.
There is a lot that your marriage is missing in your intimacy if this is your definition or your whole belief of what intimacy is.
Yeah, and I think we should also make it clear that physical intimacy is also as important as the other levels of intimacy.
Yeah, it is.
Right? It should be, however, the last stage of intimacy.
Yeah.
It's almost like the cherry on top of intimacy. But when you have a cherry on top, it means below you have a lot of other things that are stacked up.
Yeah.
And the cherry on top is always smaller than the other the other ingredients
components
below. So physical intimacy should be the last stage of your intimacy. And I say that because I know that if you connect in the next 3 levels that we'll be sharing with you today, you will find it so easy to connect at a physical level.
Yeah.
Simply because you found a way to connect in more levels than just the physical one. In fact, speaking, if you are single and you're listening to this, don't even consider physical intimacy at this moment.
Should be the last.
Try to always connect in the next 3 levels that we'll be sharing, so that by the time you get married, it's easy for you to get into the physical intimacy, right?
Yep.
We normally talk marriage here, right? So in your marriage, it's so important to have physical intimacy, because I can tell you this, not everything can be communicated verbally.
True.
Some things only the body can communicate
Yeah.
and only the body can understand.
Yeah.
Right? I think the greatest form of intimacy is when you can communicate love to your partner without saying a word.
Yeah.
So people should always strive to have physical intimacy, but know that it should not form the entirety
Yes.
of their intimacy in their marriage. So look out for this. Are you physically intimate enough with your partner? And if not, why are you not physically intimate with them? And if sex is the only physical intimacy you experience, what about the other parts of physical intimacy?
Like
that
touching,
touching,
hugging,
some people
kissing,
don't know what
cuddling,
they are.
massaging.
All those touches,
Yeah, there's a lot.
It's physical.
Yeah.
Just being present.
Yes, showing up.
Showing up and being present is
yeah.
also a form of intimacy. People don't know what their spouse's hand feels like.
Yeah.
People don't know what their spouse's cuddle feels like. Some people, they go as far as not knowing what their spouse's kiss feels like. And those are the ways you can be intimate physically with your spouse.
Yeah.
And if you are not doing any of these things, I implore you today that you start doing them, because they will help your marriage in a long run.
Yep. If all the other cups are filled, all the other levels are checked, then this one should not be a problem
Will
for
become
anyone.
easy.
Yeah.
And we'll be sharing just now the other 3. But like we said, we want you to know that all these things work together.
True.
And if you can strive to connect in all the other levels, then your physical intimacy will not have a problem at all.
True.
Yep. What is it? The third one?
The third one, mental intimacy.
Yes.
Yeah, mental intimacy. So it is important to state that mental intimacy does not mean that you have to be smart.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Or you have to be a PhD candidate to hold a meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
This thinking or belief could be intimidating for some people, or be an area where others feel inferior, or feel like they don't match up to their spouses, or have nothing to bring to the table.
Yeah.
So people tend to opt out of engaging with their spouses on matters that require mental exercise. And I believe that given a chance, the more you engage in such exercises, mental exercises, it is the more you learn and grow, right, in this level of intimacy. So you don't have to be your partner's equal mentally, to be able to connect with them at this level. You just need to engage them at this level. And I believe that you will be able to open up parts of yourself that you did not know exist mentally.
Yeah.
So I believe that you will be, once you have unlocked that, you will be able to connect at this level successfully.
And I think, it's important for everyone who's listening now to understand that mental intimacy is really about sharing thoughts.
True.
It's like you said, you don't have to be
a PhD
a rocket
candidate.
scientist,
Yes.
to hold a meaningful conversation. It's about sharing ideas, in engaging in just meaningful conversations. The question is, when last did you have a meaningful conversation with your spouse?
True.
When last did you sit down and just talk? And mental intimacy doesn't mean you are talking about serious things only. It's about you just sitting down and exchanging mental, basically thoughts, because mental intimacy is about the thoughts, internal thoughts. It's about sharing everything that each of you are both interested in, and having the different views and hearing what the other person has to say. You get to understand and you get to know who your partner is by just sitting down and listening to what they have to say. It also means you need to respect each other. Mental intimacy will always help you build respect for one another, because I have to sit here and listen to what you have to say without undermining your opinions. And that is a beautiful thing to have in a marriage, to be able to say what you think freely without fearing that you are going to be judged for what you've said. And sometimes what I say may be a little stupid, but I should be able to, if there's a place I should be able
feel
to share,
comfortable enough to even be stupid. It should be with your spouse.
My spouse, I should be able to say the weirdest thing, the stupidest thing, if there's a word like that, without fearing that you are going to judge me or post,
think less of me.
or think less of me, or post me on social media so that everyone else laughs at me. But it's that kind of a space, and that's where mental intimacy comes. It allows for us to grow mentally together and to align also mentally together.
I should be able to come to you with thoughts that I even didn't think through. Right, to bounce off ideas in their infinite stage. And I should know that I will not be judged.
I mean, I should be able to come, like you say, with a stupid business idea. And it our marriage should be an environment that allows me to say those things and know that you are going to criticize me, you are going to give me constructive criticism, and sometimes you are going to give me solutions to make better what I've put on the table. But even when you criticize me, I know that you love me enough to criticize me enough that when I go out there, I'm already equipped with all the objections that I would face out there, because I have a mind at home that has already asked me those questions before I take the product outside. And I think for us, that's what I appreciate about our marriage, is that we're able to talk about anything, and we're able to, whether it's business or pleasure, we're able to talk about it and come up with different ideas. My mind is narrow, or yours is wide. Sometimes it's vice versa, but we make it work that way. I don't believe my mind is the only mind I have. I know I have two minds every time. That's why I'm able to bring stuff to you, and you are able to help me with those.
Awesome.
So
that is true.
Please strive for mental intimacy. Talk about anything. It will help your marriage a great deal.
Awesome. Number 2, emotional intimacy.
Emotional intimacy.
Okay, let me take this one. So emotional intimacy speaks to the emotions, right? This refers to being emotionally open and vulnerable with your spouse. You will not be able to be intimate at this level if you are holding back. Right? Well, this speaks to all the levels of intimacy, really. You will not achieve them if you are holding back. But I think this one may be difficult for some people to do, as not everyone is able to read their own emotions. And if you are not able to read your own emotions, it means you will have a difficult time communicating them. So people opt out of talking about their emotions because it may not always be that the environment does not allow, but it could be that how do I communicate what I am feeling. So it is very important, and I think it is a good exercise for one to learn how to read your emotions so that you can better communicate them in a way that your spouse will understand you. There is always a sense of fear with this one, with being open and vulnerable with your spouse, not wanting to be a nag, a complainer, or a crier, mostly for women, because we are so much in our emotions, right? You don't want to be a crybaby, because emotions may call for or require some tears to be shed, right? Definitely. But if you are not going to be vulnerable with your spouse, then who are you going to be vulnerable with? Who are you going to be able to cry to if you don't want to do that with your spouse? How will you otherwise be emotionally intimate with your spouse if you don't open up to them about your feelings? And I believe this is a call to all men. It is a call to all men to tap into this level of intimacy, because men generally do not open up about their emotions. Right? And without you as a man opening up about your emotions to your wife, you are depriving your marriage of a very critical or crucial part of its beauty and success. And when you hold back, you are also making it difficult for your wife to come forth with her emotions. And this will give birth to a struggle and contention in your marriage on this level of intimacy, really.
I think I like two things you mentioned about emotional intimacy. First is the fact that it requires a lot of vulnerability, and second is how you implore men to come forth with their emotions, you know. And I'll speak to the second one. I think women deal better with emotions, right? Women, because they are always emotional, well, most of the time emotional. So women find it easy to deal with emotions. That's why we as men sometimes don't even know what to do with someone who's emotional, because we ourselves are not able to be many emotional. Times are not able to be emotional ourselves, you know. So I think when you are married, you are in a good space.
True.
Because now you are one. So you have a part of you, which is your spouse, which is your wife in this case, who's able to deal with emotions. And it is
therefore teaching you how to.
It is therefore, I want to put it this way, that if I'm unable to deal with emotions, marriage should be that kind of environment that allows me to open up about my emotions, because I know you already have the experience of dealing with emotions. Chances are you'll help me regulate, you'll help me deal better, you'll help me even spot emotions that I'm not even aware of, you know. But it only takes that vulnerability, as you said, you know, to first off open up regarding my emotions, and trust that since you know how to deal with them, you'll know how to deal with me, and also we'll get a chance to sit down and talk through those emotions and help me understand how I am feeling, you know, because you already, probably you've gone through a ton of emotions already, you know. And I think it's a good thing when you have a wife to allow your emotions, you know, to let loose of those emotions
Yeah.
to your wife so that they can help you regulate. They can also help you deal with emotions better. And maybe as time goes by, we as men will grow, and become better emotional beings as well. Maybe we are not designed that way, but it doesn't hurt to just have that touch of a little bit of emotion into things. But also, I think to be emotionally intimate would also mean we need to be intentionally and deliberately have taken that decision in our minds, not to protect ourselves emotionally. And I think that's what men do a lot, So for both men and women, if you ever want to be emotionally intimate, you cannot reach emotional intimacy and emotional protection at the same time.
Yeah.
These cannot coexist.
Yeah.
They need to separate, and usually one will always win. Most of us have heard the term when people say to us, "You've built walls around you." When someone says that, simply mean they can't access you emotionally, which means, and if that's your spouse, it's a dangerous place to find yourself in, because you are basically opening a door that may be very hard to close when you can't be emotional with your spouse.
Yeah.
You need to be able to exchange those emotions. So for both men and women, and I'm speaking more to men, open yourself up for you to be emotional with your wife, so that you don't deny them that intimacy of being emotionally intimate with you. So allow yourself. I believe your marriage is a safe space to do so.
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen, honestly?
Yeah,
I mean, you are pouring yourself out to somebody who loves you, and only wants the best for you.
Yeah.
So when you do become emotional, open and vulnerable with your wife, I think and I believe that only the best things can come out of that exercise.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah. So spiritual intimacy now.
That'll be number one. Okay.
I would like to believe that this is the highest, if not the first level of intimacy that the couple must connect and be close at. Right. This is the one level of intimacy that we must be striving for the most in our marriages. We are first spiritual beings before we are physical beings. So it makes sense that we must first connect at this level of intimacy in our marriage.
Yeah.
It is important to note that unlike other levels of intimacy, spiritual intimacy is going to require that we be of the same spirit in order to connect seamlessly.
Yeah.
We must believe in what your partner believes in spiritually. You must do what they do spiritually. And if you are going to pull in different directions in this level, intimacy may be very hard to accomplish, if not impossible.
Yeah. True intimacy begins from a spiritual level. Any other intimacy built outside of this, yes, I mean physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, what's the other one? Forgot the other
Mental
one.
intimacy.
Mental intimacy. Those are important, yes.
But spiritual is the foundation.
But the basis of all of those is spiritual intimacy. People who can't connect at a spiritual level find it hard to connect at any other level, or they build a false sense of connection. And this would be evident when all the other levels are starting to fall down, because there are times when you're not going to be able to be physically intimate with your spouse. There are times when you're not going to be emotionally intimate with your spouse. You are not going to be always 100% in those areas.
Life happens.
And when life happens, it must find you spiritually connected
and intimate.
It must find you spiritually intimate, because if your spiritual intimacy is not on point, then even all the other intimacies will
Crumble.
will struggle.
Yeah.
You know, people struggle with a lot of things in their marriages because they are not aligned, first of all, spiritually. You know, you find that you're the only one who goes to church, for instance.
Yeah.
I'm not going to church. So it already causes a lot of problems. So always try and find that true intimacy, which is spiritual intimacy. And as I said, people who can connect at this level find it hard to connect at any other level. We must understand that spirituality will always take different forms, right? But it boils down to this: spirituality is where we find meaning and purpose.
True.
And there is nothing as powerful as knowing your purpose as a couple.
Yes.
You know, we often don't know this, but our values and our ethics and also our life principles are usually found in spirituality.
True.
So if your values as a person who is spiritual and you are married to someone who is not spiritual, chances are,
or has a different spirituality than you.
or has a different spirituality than you, chances are your values will be different. Your ethics will be different. Your principles will always be
and you
different.
can't build marriage on that.
And you can't build, you know, and like I said, this creates that false sense of connection, because some people will say, no, but we are fine, you know. And then when stuff happens, then you start realizing, hey, we should have sorted out the spiritual level, you know. So it's important. It's really important to make sure that you are on the same level when it comes to spiritual matters. You know, you are intimate when it comes to spiritual matters. Do you worship the same God?
Yes. Do you go to the same church?
Do you go to the same church?
Yes.
Do you worship the same God?
The same way. Yeah.
You know, do you pray together?
Yes.
You know, do you
Read the word
Do you
together.
discuss the word together? Do you read the word together? You know, when it comes to spiritual matters, what does your relationship or your marriage look like? You know, so connecting at a spiritual level helps you as a couple to put everything in its place.
Yeah.
Everything else goes into its place simply because your spiritual life is in place. It's where it's supposed to be. There is nothing that makes a couple closer than finding meaning and knowing there is a purpose to their marriage.
Yep.
And that purpose is usually spiritually inclined. You know, so no matter what, try and be as spiritually intimate as you can.
As you can. I think we are done.
Yeah. Oh, that's it.
We are done. As we conclude, I want to say this. The Bible says in the book of Genesis 2:25,
Yeah.
and they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed.
Yeah.
So intimacy speaks to nakedness. The closer you become with your spouse, the more you undress yourself before them.
Yeah.
It is the more you have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
You don't hide your emotions. You don't hide your mental state. You don't hide your spirituality.
Yeah.
You don't deny them anything physically. You don't hide when you have sex under the sheets in the dark. You don't hide anything, basically, right? So intimacy is really progress to oneness.
Yeah.
You will not achieve oneness if you will not achieve intimacy.
Yeah.
It is important to say this. You need to exercise all these levels of intimacy.
Definitely.
You cannot choose one
Yeah.
to do and leave the others because your marriage needs them. It requires them.
Yeah.
It's built on them to succeed. Right? It is what makes marriage what marriage should be, and that is a state of nakedness and oneness.
Yeah. Before we close, we have a little gift for you today. What is it, babe?
So I want to give a challenge for the week.
Yeah.
Right? I will ask these questions that you probably should answer with your spouse.
Yeah.
Have you achieved intimacy in all the levels that we have discussed in your marriage?
Yeah.
If not, which one are you currently struggling with? And if you were to rate each level of your intimacy on a scale of 1 to 10, how much would you score? If you do not score a 10 on any or some, what can you both do to improve that score? This is an open discussion for you and your spouse this coming week.
Awesome. And if you are on YouTube, watching this from YouTube, on the description below, you'll find a link that has our intimacy tool. Download it, sit with your spouse, go through it, rate yourselves, and talk through things, find out how you can upgrade or how you can install some new updates into your intimacy levels, to make sure that your intimacy levels are better and they have created a beautiful and a fulfilling marriage for you. Do you have any last words, babe?
Yeah, just to say that once you agree on what you have discussed as you do the challenge and implement the resolutions that you have agreed on, you will see your marriage thriving.
Amen.
That is a promise.
Amen. Well, folks, there you have it. We hope we've given you a step towards finding beauty in your marriage. And if you have any questions, please feel free to hit us up in any of our social media platforms, Finding Beauty in Marriage, or Bongani Maluka, Innocent B Maluka on TikTok and all other social media, and Matapelo Maluka in all social media platforms as well. And remember, like, subscribe, share, and whatever you want to do with this, just do it, because we really hope you can help us help the next couple, and that's it from us. Be present, keep loving, and keep intimate. Bye bye.
God bless you. See you next time.